Hello friends, my name is Kishan and welcome you in this video tutorial. In this video tutorial, we are going to look what's the difference between ArrayList and Vector in Java. So these are the major differences I have written in this slide. So let's start from the first. ArrayList gives you performance, better performance as it is non-synchronized, right? So there is no overhead for the synchronization or thread safety with the ArrayList, and that's the reason ArrayList has a better performance. Now vector operations gives poor performance as they are thread safe. The thread safe which works on the vector gets a lock on it, which makes other thread wait till the lock is released, and there is something overhead, thread safety overhead on the vector, and basically one thread at a time can work with the vector, and that's the reason the vector is poor performance. Now ArrayList increments 50% of current array size if the number of elements exceeds from its capacity, right? So if you have a capacity is 10 and if you try to element 11th elements, then capacity will be incremented by the 50% of the current size, means size would be 15. If while creating the array list itself, if you have specified the initial size like 20, then if you try to add a 21st element, right, then capacity will be again incremented by the 50%, means incremented capacity of underlying array would be the 30. Now vector increments 100%, means double the array size if total number of elements exceeds than its capacity, right? So when you use a default constructor of vector, then this statement is completely true. But when you go to the vector, then here you have a many constructor. If you in vector, if you have a very various constructor, almost I think 4 constructor, right? So if you create a vector object using this constructor, then initial size will be taken as a 10, and if you try to go beyond of this limit, then if you try to add 11th element, then size is gonna twice. But if you look into the another constructor of this vector class, right, so here we have another constructor which takes initial capacity as well as capacity increment. So here if you specify the initial capacity as 20 and increment capacity is 5, then if you try to add the 21st elements, then capacity is increment by the 5 only. In that case, capacity will not be increment by the 100%, and this option you don't have available in the array list. If you go to the array list, then in array list you have a constant is declared default capacity, so 10 would be the default capacity, and you have a 3 constructor, right? So here also you can specify the initial capacity. If you do not specify initial capacity, and if you create an array list by calling this default constructor, then default capacity will be taken, that is the 10, right? But here you don't have any option available like to provide an option increment capacity, right? That's the also a difference. Now let's come back again. Here ArrayList not a legacy class, it is introduced in the JDK 1.2 or Java 2, you can say. Vector is a legacy class which is available from the beginning itself, Java 1 or JDK 1.0 itself. If you go to the source code, and here on the top of this source code you can see in vector, this is saying that this is since JDK 1.0, means Java 1. And if you talk about the array list, if you go to the top in the documentation saying that since JDK 1.2 or Java 2. So that is one of the difference as well. And array list can use iterator for traversing its elements, right? There are many ways to traverse array elements, but here we are looking for the differences only. So we can iterate array list element using iterator, but in case of vector you can use enumeration as well as iterator for traversing over elements, right? Now there are few similarities between these classes, which are as follows. Both vector and array list are global array data structure, right? The iterator and list iterator returns by these classes are fail fast, right? So already we have talked on the fail fast, means while iterating the vector or array, right, using iterator or list iterator, if you try to add some elements or delete some elements from the underlying collection or vector or array, then you'll end up with the concurrent modification exception. And I'm talking about the addition and deletion of elements using the method which is available in the list interface, but same action you can achieve through the remove as well as add method of iterator and list iterator, but in that case you will not get concurrent modification exception. I hope you get. Now next, both are ordered collection classes as they maintain the elements in such an order. Means while iterating the elements from vector and array list, you will get the elements in the same order in what order you have inserted. So basically all implementation of list including I would say linked list as well as copy on write array list as well, all maintains the basically insertion orders. Both allows duplicate and null values. So all, even when we talk about the all implementation of list, all list basically allows you to add the duplicate elements as well as you can add null elements as much as you want. There is no restriction in that. Now both grows and shrinks automatically when overflows or deletion happens. So again this comes to the point, array list and vector is a growable size, right? So now what is fail fast iterator? Let's try to understand what is the fail fast iterator again. If collection like array list, vector, even you can include like linked list as well, gets structurally modified except the add or remove method of the iterator or list iterator, right? After creation of iterator or list iterator, then it will throw concurrent modification exception. A structural modification refers to the addition or deletion of the elements from the collection, right? So some people thinks updation of an elements also comes under the structural modification. Guys, this does not comes under the structural modification. Structural modifications comes under the addition as well as deletion of any elements from the underlying data structure. So let's try to understand these things again through an example. Already that example is there, which we have seen the previous example, previous video. So here if you talk about the array list, let's take an array list. Here I have an array list. So here if you have an array list and if you try to delete any elements using the iterator itself, then this is not this will not throw you concurrent modification exception, right? This is safely deleted. But if you try to delete this element using method which is available in the list interface, then this is a structural change. This is considered as a structural change, and your iterator is a fail fast. So this is immediately going to throw a concurrent modification exception. So here you have a single thread, but in multi-threaded environment, if one thread is iterating this collection and another thread will try to add some elements in this list or delete some elements from the underlying list, then this will throw a fail. This will throw a concurrent modification exception. That's the thing I wanted to show you. And when you get the list iterator, same applies for the list iterator as well, right? So list iterator is having a method is called add and delete as well. So using list iterator method you can add, delete, that's not a problem. But if you try to add or remove elements from the API or method which is available in the list, that will create the problem while iterating the collection, right? That will throw you concurrent modification exception, and that is called fail fast iterator. What is fail safe iterator? There is another iterator is called fail safe iterator, that we will talk later point of time. So that's all I wanted to discuss in this video tutorial, guys. I hope you enjoyed learning this video. If you really like this video, then please hit on the like button and please share and subscribe my YouTube channel as well. So that's all, and see you next video tutorial.